I don't know why I come here afternoons. All of my underground theatrical friends, they come in here at night. That's right. That's why I come in the afternoons. I hate bars. I get sexy in bars, at least I think so. Alcohol? It's otherwise a down. Let's see. I could play a record. After a while, they all look alike. If I were bisexual, I could go out onto the street. By sex. But look, it's raining. I don't suppose, since the creation of the world, it's rained in this particular spot more than 1 trillion times. And think, after all of the Puritans and pioneers and astronauts, I am here to witness 1,000,001st. Is this an award for me? For being the 1,000,001st mortal to cross over the bridge from boredom to schizophrenia. I hate bars, especially on windows. Get those goddamn bars off of those windows, you creeps. Otherwise, we'll never get any fresh victims in here. I'm doing these things with Siamese dancing now. Over at the Dada. You know the Dada. It's a rather well-known underground theater. It's the most famous one, as a matter of fact. That doesn't make it 1/1,000,000th as famous as any chick with her clits and her tits spread out in the center of a fuckbook. But in the tiny little, shriveling, shrinking, curdling clot of schnot that we call the theater, Il Dada is the most famous of the 412 underground theaters listed in the Village Voice this week. Which means that if you're lucky enough to work there, you might pull a fast $5 and play to a house of 12. 12. It's the number of people, their average age, and the total of their IQs. My rehearsal was canceled tonight. I was afraid of that. I should always take roles in several things at once. Then I'm covered. I'm an actor. I'm used to acting out other people's fantasies. Do you have any fantasies? Are they completely cast? You're waiting for a friend. Does your friend have a friend? Only you. Look, let's be modern about this. It's 1974. It's Valentine's Day, 1974. So, can I come home with you two? I've always wanted to have sex between two consenting adults. Valentine's Day. No wonder all the bums on the streets are cutting each other's hearts out. Hello. My name is Sparger. What's yours? Oh, have you? Well, yes, I have done a number of things this year. Maybe you've seen my name on the wall back there on one of those stunningly mimeographed flyers for underground theatrical events of interest to the discriminating theater goer. Let's see. Oh, yes. I started my year off playing in the Fixed Star Regus in an astrological Halloween pageant in an abandoned garage. And then I was in the... Sorry, what's that? Oh. I always start my year off with Halloween. I'm a realist. And then I was in a rather well-received, improvised symphony concert done underwater at the YWHA. Then I had a really busy week. At 8 o'clock, I played the left thumb in a group sensitivity demonstration called Hands Off at the Marymount Episcopal Community Center. And then at 10, I played a movie projector with a twinkle bulb in my mouth in an all-drag production of Bonnie and Clyde at the Mass Dramaticist Experimental Tavern. And then, at the stroke of midnight, I was the cathartic focus of a rather tedious, telepathic, theatrical event in the basement of the Yoga Institute. That's right. They didn't advertise that one. We all just sat close together. We tried to draw Clive Barnes to us through the power of prayer. I try to keep busy. Now, when the Siamese dancing thing is over, now that's if it doesn't make Broadway, I'm supposed to tour 14 widely distributed colleges in an all-male musical of Lysistrata in a Lebanese dialect. Oh, that's unless I get cast in the Amphetamine Theater's new production of the Third World War. It might be smart to get into that. And I think the Third World War is coming back, at least according to my friends in the Third World. But the only thing is, they don't want us to be in anything else for the entire rehearsal period of 2 years. But, you know, it's something to do, and well, that's what's important. Because if I don't find something time-consuming pretty soon, my liver is going to wind up inflammable. It's like a plum pudding. They say alcohol destroys brain cells. Trouble is, it's not selective enough. It doesn't necessarily get the right ones. Oh, this fucking rain. You know, I knew this boy once who could count raindrops. And he said that no one could refute him on that. He was a director. Now, he had this show where he had the audience crawl into the theater, pitch black theater on all fours. And when they got in the theater, they hit him in the face with a big sack of, well, hey, you probably saw this. I was in it. I think. You know, I've been in so many shows now where the audience crawls in on all fours and then we hit them in the face with a big sack of, well, something. I don't remember if I was in it. You know, he inspired confidence, though. This boy, the raindrop watcher. Of course, anybody can nowadays. People are so ready to believe anything you tell them. Well, for instance, what if I were to tell you that I wasn't always like this? You'd believe me, wouldn't you? Oh my God. All right, you would. Okay, but only on the condition that I'm willing to believe that you weren't always the way you are. Okay? It's a deal. I believe you were different once. I believe everything was different once. And the same ones, too. But that's all I know to believe in now. That everything happens again and yet again in great logarithmic cycles. It's like psychedelic sparrows returning to corporeal capistranos. It's like water sloshing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth through all eternity in some celestial bathtub. You gotta believe in something. Especially now that the underground is just an echo chamber and the flower children all turned into fruits. I don't get confused rehearsing for a lot of different things at once. When I get confused is when I don't have any rehearsals to go to. Well, it's like now. I start drinking and looking for someone to get into, as it were. I could work 24 hours a day if I had to. Still come out looking great. I always come out looking great, no matter what piece of shit I'm in. They're all shit. You like that one? That one last week, the one with the big spitting scene? You like that? Tell me, did you read the review before you saw it? The one that said that it was symbolic of things that can't be expressed any other way. I figured. Would you mind moving away? If I wanted to talk to a brick wall, I'd rather just talk to a real one. I'm phoning up for two. Now just fuck off, freak, okay? You think you can buy me a drink and then bore me? You can bore me just as much without buying me a drink first. More so, even. Now just move on. I'd rather sleep by myself. I'd rather not sleep at all than sleep with you. You know, I'd rather just talk to myself anyways, alright? Fact of the matter is, I wasn't always like this. Maybe people just weren't meant to live in the present. Meant. By whom? Nah, who cares? Sure, I used to live in the present. According to science, we all used to live underwater too, but we adapted. We just haven't adapted to the present. And it's not until we can grow asbestos filters in our nostrils, learn to live on monosodium glutamate, can survive getting 6 inches of steel shoved up us in every other doorway. And we can ignore the pangs of dread and empathy and guilt that paralyze us. Whenever we see a human being reduced to a lump of mucus come wobbling towards us with his ragged, flaky hand held out, mumbling and slobbering and blubbering, "Help me! Help me! Help me! For God's sake, somebody, please, help me!" Yeah, I'm thinking about things I don't want to think about. I think I'm too drunk too early. I have nothing left to block up the back of my brain, and I'm having a memory hemorrhage. I'm remembering it all. Remembering. I'm having an attack of the truth. It's coming at me, and it is me. The truth. I am sitting here. I'm in a public place, seeping and sopping and soaking and reeking truth. At the end, the end of truth, it's death. The truth is, I used to know a place that was better. It was this little hole-in-the-wall West Village coffee house called the Opera Buffo. And we did plays. We made a living peddling coffee and pastries and greasy sandwiches, and twice a night we did plays. I was one of us. Them, there, then. The Buffo. It was the first place that did that. It was the first place where we got together and we did plays, and we didn't worry about whether we were going to be a hit, get a review, become a star, take it to Broadway, get a grant, or anything else in God's gonorrhea green underworld, except whether we wanted to do it. And we got away with it by calling it a coffee house. What it was a temple. I was 16. I was bleeding. I was naked from the waist down. 3 sailors had picked me up on the New Jersey Turnpike. And when they discovered that I wasn't a real girl, they got tough. I was a mixed-up kid, but they mixed me up a little more. They tore off my skirt and they worked me over with my Scarlet O'Hara cork sole wedgies. They left me face down on a Greenwich Village side street in a set of rusty mattress springs. I started at the bottom, and well, so did the sailors. And I don't think I ever could have gotten up if I hadn't heard this music. Some drippy, classical opera. It was opera. I was shaken and sick. My lower lip was torn by the mattress springs. I was covered in blood and shit and cum, and I thought I'd lost my left eye. At first, I thought I was hearing offstage death music, like some Tennessee Williams character. I wanted to get up and run. At first, I had to get up. And then I was up, and I could literally see cars and people passing by at each end of this block-long side street. And the only thing I could think about was this old gay bum who used to hang out behind a diner where I come from in Jersey, and how as kids we used to toss him cigarette butts. And he would cackle and tell us stories about his shock therapy at Bellevue, only he couldn't pronounce the B's and the V's, and it would come out, well, woo, well, woo, well, woo. I realized that that's what they'd do to me if they caught me staggering around half naked. And then I saw this cop silhouette at one end of the street, and I started dragging myself along that street like an alligator, groveling towards that music, with some soprano cracking the top of her skull with high notes. And pretty soon I reached a doorway where I could stand. And believe me, by then, I was in no shape for the senior prom. I couldn't breathe, for instance. I thought it was over. And then I discovered that the sailors had left 2 poppers shoved up my nose. That's where most of the blood was coming, but I sneezed so I could breathe a little bit. You know, what the hell? Death was better than well woo, anyway I figured it. So I kept dragging myself along those colorful West Village walls towards that soaring, looping sound. And I wasn't helped any by the fact that the place the sound was coming from had all these blinking, colorful lights. I could hardly focus. And there was this funny sound, like it turned out it was me, and I was whimpering like a sick kitten. I put an end to that right quick, and I kept dragging myself along those walls towards Disneyland or wherever that was, because now I had a goal in life. To reach that joint and put an end to that infernal screeching. So, half stripped, and I still had this taupe turban on my head, and bleeding at the ass like Dylan Thomas, I trailed Gore right up that damn ditzy street until I stood, wavering in front of this unlikely place, with the name Opera Buffo across the front in green and gold glitter. I fell against the doors and they fell open, and I would have fallen too, except my turban, it got caught in a mobile hanging over the entrance. So there I was clawing at my hair and yelping. And towards the rear of this empty, insane coffee house, these figures, they rose up and they started towards me. And there were these little flickering ice cream lights everywhere on the walls. They were covered in magazine pages, movie posters, and classical reproductions. And the people, one was a circus clown, and another was like something out of the Hitler Youth Movement with this glittering necklace of swastikas. And there was a Romany gypsy on a little stage in the middle. Was this blonde girl, like Botticelli's Venus. And she was dancing with a quadruple amputee. I thought I'd flipped. And then the clown, he came into the light. He had this little bristly beard and the biggest eyes you ever saw. He said in this atrociously phony Italian accent, "Started the show again, Bambini. We hooked a customer." And I screamed, "Stop the music! Stop the goddamn music!" And he looked at me, and he saw the way I was, and he yelled, "Stop it, Costa Diva! That's not a ladylike way to talk." And by then, the Hitler Youth had started to free my hair from the mobile. I shrieked, "Listen! Lay off of the lasagna! Get me some pants!" And then I was free. I was free, and I ran. God knows with what strength, but I ran the length of that incredible place, right across the stage, past the blonde girl and the amputee to that record player, and I took that record and I smashed it. I smashed the pieces. I danced on the pieces, and then I fell backwards, right into the arms of the Nazi and the Gypsy and the Corsican clown. And on the ceiling was the James Montgomery flag poster that said, "Uncle Sam wants you." And Buffo was the circus clown, but he looked down at me and he said, "Mamma mia, here's another one. And us not making enough to feed ourselves." Because you see, right then, he knew immediately I was always going to stay. Buffo was a ballet dancer who got too fat. So he opened up a coffee house with the idea that his dance friends could use a place to congregate. Except he chose such a dumb location that nobody came. You couldn't go home. You aren't supposed to be a Sicilian and a ballerina. So his family kept the place going to keep him out of sight. Well, anyways, after I made my ungainly entrance, Buffo found a Red Cross nurse outfit and he made the Hitler Youth wear it to take care of me. Except that Corso, the Hitler Youth, he replaced the Red Cross with the swastika. And he would paste little jewel-shaped tears under his eyes whenever he changed my bandages. Well, nothing I needed very badly was broken, so I was on my feet in a week, and Buffo swore that I'd be tap dancing again, which was a joke. His favorite people were the Rockettes. But I secretly studied tap from a 25-cent Fred Astaire second-hand paperback. And then one night, before the 9 o'clock show, I announced to 3 NYU students and a Caribbean astrologer that there would be a brief prologue that evening. And I signaled to Corso to put on Mac the knife. And I proceeded to do my 2 time steps alternately for 15 minutes, biting my tongue. Now the audience was understandably transfixed, but Buffo, when he came out of shock, he ran on stage and he announced that next week I'd be doing the full 4-hour version. And he hit me in the face with a pie. I poured ketchup over his head and he slapped me across the face with a raw fish. I tap danced on his toes. He went on point and he pirouetted. The blonde girl and the amputee, they got tired of waiting to go on, so they came on stage and went into their dance, but we weren't about to quit. So he let me have it with every insult in the operatica repertory, and I countered with every wisecrack that I could remember from over 4 million Glenda Farrell musicals. As fate would have it, a critic from the Village Voice was there that night. He was looking for deaf mute boys. But that week, he wrote us up as the latest thing in drama. Before we knew it, we had to hire a waiter. The reviewers came back. We hired a dishwasher who was a frustrated set designer and a host who had revolutionary ideas in costuming, lighting, and menu layout. Well, right about then, now, you know what? The middle 60s must have happened in there somewhere, because I think it was 1966 when I had a day off. And I was in the hospital. But I realized that there were 125 underground theaters listed in the papers. 3 of our playwrights had books coming out. One was on Broadway, one had a TV show, and another had bleeding ulcers. So that was me. And those were the only days off I had during all those years. Because, well, right about then, the vultures moved. No, not vultures. Vultures eat dead things. I need something that eats living things. More like piranhas. Right about then, the piranhas moved in. Because, well, the bufo, you see, had been started by rejects, nomads, exiles, rebels, and outcasts. So now that the establishment critics were selling the place on that basis, we started drawing the real rot. The junkies and the psychopaths. And we never needed critics before. We sold sandwiches. And now, more and more, we drew not the real dropouts or the real rebels, but the failures and the phonies from the Upper West Side who only wanted to do what was original and daring last year. The new phony audience, they read the reviews and they loved us. But for us, the sanctity, the privacy, it was gone. There was no other reward. The amount of work was unspeakable. And right about then, I found out that Bufo and all the others who I had worshipped for their energy, originality, brilliance, and verve had just been on speed all that time. Well, I had worn myself out learning to keep up with them. And then Bufo started to get into heavier drugs, and he let his junkie friends put on that kind of show at the Bufo. He was so tired. We were all exhausted. We were like sea creatures, cut off from the ocean by the tide, cut off from the elements of their lives. No. We were more like sea creatures, helpless to leave their element, while it's slowly being poisoned by the settling muck and grime. Now, Bufo, you see, he was away at this time, now sick or drugged or crazy a lot of the time. The new kind of people, they wouldn't show up to do their shows. And then Corso, who was Bufo's lover, he couldn't stand it anymore, so we split. And Bufo, he didn't know who to blame for what was happening. And then word came that Corso was killed in a motorcycle accident. And Corso's family wouldn't let Bufo attend the funeral. So Bufo would vanish. Now, the place, it was illegal anyways, but we didn't know who to pay off like Bufo did. So they started laying these summonses on the place, ridiculous amounts. $1,000, $2,000 a week on a place that couldn't clear $100. And we had all these awful vegetable people hanging around. The Bufo, you see, had been like this tiny island world of hell. And people came. They came staggering like refugees from some blasted, sterile, plagued planet. The way I came in. The way I came in. The way I came in is the way more and more people left. And sometimes we'd spend all day, 2 or 3 of us, getting the place together. We'd scrubbing, shopping, waiting tables, washing dishes, improvising a show if one didn't show up. And then we'd sleep on the stage, unpaid, waiting for Bufo. And he'd come in, well, if at all, but he'd come in screaming and blubbering, "Help me! Help me! Help me, for God's sakes! Somebody, please, help me!" And he'd throw chairs at us and tell us all to go away. He was going to build a church or move to a church or raise an Atlantean temple. But finally, they all went away. One night, I closed up, and I went out looking for Bufo. And he came back to the Bufo, alone. He put on the Costa Diva, and he locked the gates. He took a hatchet and he cut off his hand. He tried to cut off his foot. He hacked away at his neck and his face. He broke 2 ribs. He succeeded in cutting open his stomach with 44 strokes. His guts, they spilled out right there on the stage. And he still had the strength left to chop up his guts. I got the job of mopping up the blood. The hospital reported that they had more blood donors for him than on any day since the Second World War. And then, 4 days later, he died on Corso's birthday. Their families wouldn't let him be buried together. A year later, the critics named an award after him. This has been a recording. Please wait 60 seconds and leave me a message.
When you reach the end of your glass, you better order another one fast. And maybe this'll be the one that'll do. A long afternoon playing to a world of fools, circus tricks and somersaults, a fracture of the mind. You're split in time. When it starts all over again, and those memories won't end, and you're lost in that moment when you had to choose. Wait a minute, you can't lose. You've already got the bruise. A long afternoon playing to a world of fools, circus tricks and somersaults, a fracture of the mind. You're split in time. You stare into your glass. Your dreams don't last. And now nobody notices you. Can something still come true? You only did what you had to do. A long afternoon playing to a world of fools, circus tricks and somersaults, a fracture of the mind. You're split in time. A long afternoon playing to a world of fools, circus tricks and somersaults, a fracture of the mind. You're split in time.